Hey guys, have you ever waken up one morning and decided to walk outside, look at a space next to your house, and think, I need to build something here? For me, it was a shed. Now, I could have just bought a shed and put it here, but it's such a tight space that I couldn't really buy anything that fit, or if I did, it was going to be too small, or too big, or not tall enough. So really my only option was to build something. So first thing we did was we moved the blocks over, and then I used those same kind of blocks as a foundation and put one at a time, trying to keep it as level as I could and as straight as possible. Just like so. Now the whole purpose of this shed was, well, I obviously need more storage, and I had a lot of car cleaning supplies and stuff inside my garage, and seeing how I didn't really have a whole lot of space to expand, I needed to get all this stuff out. So the idea was to build this shed, move everything out that wasn't related to woodworking out of the garage, and then my idea was to use one shed as a dust collection system, or to put a dust collection system inside of it. So first thing I did was I made a box using pocket hole jigs as the floor, just like so. Didn't really care if it was pretty or not. I just kind of threw it together, tried to keep everything as square as possible, but just used screws on this pressure treated wood. Now the shed overall is going to be 16 feet long by 18 inches deep. I didn't want to build one big giant shed that I would be impossible to move, so I made 4 different sheds, all at 4 feet 18 inches by 6 feet tall. That way I can build one at a time and then move each one at a time outside. And I used 3/4 inch plywood for the floor. And then I also used the same plywood for the roof. And then I just attached everything with screws. Now, for the frame, I used 1x1 boards, and I basically first I cut a angle for the roof on one end, and then I just cut them the length, and then once I had the floors built, I used that as a reference to keep them square as I screwed in side braces. And then for the roof, I just clamped a board on each side, and then screwed them in from the top. And kind of left an overhang, so then I used a square to just kind of transfer that line, like so. And then I used a pole saw to cut that flush. And then on the boards that go long ways across the top, I cut a 22-degree angle, basically off of one corner. That way when I screwed in the boards to the side frame, it would keep the roof flush. up against it. And then I went in and toe-nailed the screws, trying to keep everything as square as I possibly could. Now this wasn't easy doing this by myself, but for the first one, I did do everything by myself, but for the other three, I enlisted the help from my wife to hold everything in place as I screwed it all together. And right there, I put another brace down the back center, screwed it in from the top, and then toe-nailed it on the bottom, and then I put 2 more side braces kind of in the middle. And then for the sides, I used the same material that they use for the exterior of houses. My idea was to make this shed look like an extension of my house, and then I was gonna paint them the same colors, which it's been raining a lot here, so my plan is to come back in the summer and paint these. And this whole project was quite a struggle just because I didn't have adequate space to do any of this. As soon as I laid down this shed, my entire floor was basically the shed, and had to shuffle around it just to get to anything. Now, to secure this to the back, I first used clamps to just kind of hold everything in place, made sure everything was square. I left about a 1-inch gap from the bottom to the side of the siding, and then screwed it all in place. And then once I did that, I took my track saw and cut off the overhang. And then finish it off with more screws. And then I did screw all along the sides and down the center. Now these boards had these like half lap overhangs. That way they all can overlap with each other, which I didn't need, so I took a Sawzall and cut them all off. A little difficult doing it upright position like this. So on the next ones, I just laid it on its side like so, and then cut it off, which worked a lot better. And then for the sides, I used, on one side, on the outside sheds, I used the same material on the sides. Same process, just clamped it in place and then screwed it all. And I did use the track saw for this first one, but on the later ones, I just used a skill saw, and it worked just fine. Track saw was a little awkward just because I didn't have a short sled, and the whole thing just kind of wanted to pretty much fall on me, but I got it to work. And then I came back and finished it off with more screws. Moving this thing around was not fun. Just definitely did not have enough space, and as I added more material, it just got heavier and heavier. But For the interior sides, I used 1/4-inch plywood, just because I wanted a nice smooth surface on the insides. And starting off with the first one, I put the piece of plywood in there, and then for the following ones, I only put the plywood on one side, and then basically use this side between sheds. They basically shared one wall, and then everything got screwed together. Now, for the doors, first I put this trim on the outside uprights, and then I did put trim on the bottom, with leaving myself just about an inch overhang for the floor. And then on the top I did the same thing, but I put a piece of trim. I used basically 2 boards of trim, one on the outside and then one underneath. That way the doors have something to butt up against when you shut them. And then on the doors, I made the trim about 2 inches longer than the actual panel. That way it gives me an inch overhang on the bottom and top. And so I wanted to make sure that trim was nice and strong, so I first used pocket holes to secure it to itself, like so. And I used that panel to kind of help me keep everything square and clamp everything down to it. And screwed it all in place. And then once I got all connected, I flipped it over. Made sure I had a nice overhang on each side, and then I put in a few screws on the front, making sure to put plenty of screws on the top and bottom, and then I flipped the whole thing over and put plenty of screws on the back side. That way it was getting screwed in from both sides. Now, moving this thing out here, I again had my wife help me move these things out there because there was just no way I could get them all by myself. Just kind of lined it up, lifted it over, got it slid into place, and then I used a sledgehammer to kind of bang it into place. Now this kind of caused me all kinds of problems because those blocks that I initially put on there, I did not do a good enough job getting them level, and so as these sheds got put in place, they kind of landed cattywampus, and then the doors, when I made them, were nice and square, and now the openings were not, and so I had to then modify each door as I installed them, which was not fun. And then screwed each shed to the existing one. And then I also screwed these to the side of the house, that way there was just no way that they would fall. Now for the roof, I used a single roll of roofing material. This stuff worked okay, but it was pretty hard to work with just because it was super rigid and heavy, and it cut fine, but it also ripped really easily. So as I was trying to put it up on top of the shed, it was ripping on me in several places, so I ended up putting it in 3 different sheets. And I wouldn't recommend using this stuff, but there it is. It's all done. I didn't paint them yet. But like I said, I'll do that in the summer once it stops raining. And then this one, I'll put the dust collection system in and then pipe it through the wall. And that's about it. Thanks for watching.